Hey everyone, Bill Barhydt here. Welcome to the Abra Money 3.0 show where I talk about the future of money and technology. This episode is an edited audio version of a recently recorded Money Talks Live AMA. There's also a video version of this podcast available on youtube.com/Abra Global. Again, that's youtube.com/Abra Global. The information presented in this podcast is provided for informational purposes only and should not be used or construed as an offer to sell or a solicitation of an offer to buy any of the financial assets discussed. Neither Abra nor any of the participants in this podcast make any representation as to the suitability or appropriateness of these financial assets for individual investors. Investors must make their own determination, either alone or in consultation with their own financial advisors, as to the suitability or appropriateness of such investments. Abra interest accounts are issued by Prime Trust and Nevada Chartered Trust Company. Rates for Abra interest accounts are subject to change. Digital currencies are not legal tender, are not backed by any government, and Abra interest accounts are not subject to FDIC or SIPC insurance protections. I'm going to get to some talking points here, and then would love to get into some questions. But obviously the three things that are going on in my world right now. Obviously, GameStop kind of seems like old news, right? 3 days ago. Then we've got Doge, which is still going on. Talk about that in a minute. And of course, Elon and Bitcoin. For those of you who are 3 hours out of date, Elon tweeted about Bitcoin, or changed his Twitter title handle, whatever you want to call it, last night. And of course, the Twitterverse went out of their minds, and the Bitcoin price has spiked immediately. So I'm getting a lot of questions, particularly from our international users who don't understand U.S. stock markets, what's going on and how it relates to Abra and crypto and Bitcoin. So let me talk about that first. So the underlying theme here is that over the past year, I don't know if the timing was just perfect vis-a-vis this pandemic or what, but stocks and cryptocurrencies are basically memes now for many people on the internet. It's crazy, right? So and of course, Robinhood, Twitter, Reddit, TikTok are mostly responsible for this. But you're all familiar with the memes. As I said, the last few days, it's been GameStop, Doge, AMC. Last year, it was Hertz. The list goes on and on. Ask an institutional investor if these companies are a wise investment, and their heads are going to spin, right? But I asked the average Robinhood, Reddit, or Twitter user, and you're going to get a totally different answer. It used to be that the retail investor would get crushed by large investors. This is no longer a guaranteed outcome. As we've seen this week, the retail investors can totally take over. As we saw last summer on Robinhood, retail investors can totally take over. As we saw overnight when Elon changed his Twitter title to say Bitcoin, retail can take over overnight. So there's a deeply entrenched belief, true or not, that hedge funds and banks consistently generate profit at the expense of the people. The 2008 housing crisis, hedge fund failures going back decades, government money printing, even the lockdowns, there's this belief that the response to these events benefits big banks, rich executives, and entrenched politicians at the expense of the people. And honestly, people are sick and tired of it. I was up super late last night. Our numbers at Abra are up 10x. I was listening to Clubhouse rooms in the background, people talking about why Doge is pumping, and people are angry. They're genuinely angry. They're just tired of all the bullshit. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, a lot of people also have extra free time right now. If they're not working in an office and they don't have to commute, that saves people a lot of time. And unfortunately, some people are out of work due to the pandemic. And social media-based trading has become a common pastime amongst this crowd. And it's given them a new voice, right? So this week, a group of people on Reddit conspired to kind of stick it to the man and drive the price of GameStop up and through the roof, as they say. Hedge funds had significant short positions in the stock. So what is a short position? A short position is simply a bet that the price of a stock is going to fall, okay? They bet that this company, in this case GameStop, right, a physical retailer of games during a pandemic where downloading games is trivially easy, it's kind of easy to see why a hedge fund wouldn't be too bullish on GameStop and would actually bet against the stock. Anyway, that's completely irrelevant. GameStop is now effectively something like a $30 billion company. I haven't checked the price in a few hours. And I would be shocked if they didn't raise a huge amount of money through an at-the-market offering. That effectively allows them to almost immediately raise more cash, taking advantage of the fact that the stock price is way up, right? So at that point, GameStop can transition to any new business that it chooses and close all of its retail stores. Certainly, retail not a good bet right now. And that would be a really great outcome for GameStop and a really bad outcome for the hedge funds who were shorting GameStop. Is that legal or is it illegal in terms of how this is happening with Reddit? I don't know. Honestly, I don't care. I think it's a fascinating social event to watch. I think more important than what's happening with GameStop and Doge, which we'll talk about as well in a second, is this idea that people can effectively get together en masse. Think about the Wall Street protests. This movement where they were basically occupying what they called it Occupy Wall Street, where they were basically sitting in this park, and the outcome basically was nothing other than the fact that we're talking about it now. Here, the outcome is totally different, right? It moved prices. It almost brought down an entire hedge fund. It may actually end up bringing down a hedge fund. It halted trading on certain stocks across exchanges all over the country, brokerages, all over the country. That's never happened before, to my knowledge. Okay. I did mention a couple of days ago in another Clubhouse session that I am a little worried about some of these Reddit users getting in trouble with the SEC for stock price manipulation. The more I looked into it, the less concerned I am about it. But I promise you, the SEC is going to be issuing subpoenas all over the place, trying to figure out what's going on. And I would strongly encourage that group of people to be very, very careful. Okay, so before we get to Doge, right? So I mentioned as well to some other people in another Clubhouse, and sorry I'm spending too much time on Clubhouse while we're trying to basically keep Abra running here. I have a friend who keeps referring to Bitcoin as kind of schmuck insurance, right? Versus the existing system. And if you take a look at what's going on, I believe that's never been more true than what's been going on the past few weeks. I believe it's finally time to decentralize everything. The internet and its underlying software technology was designed and built to survive a massive nuclear attack. The idea would be that a network with no central off switch would be easy to keep alive during such an attack. And that idea was correct. The internet doesn't go down. Okay. The problem, and it's a big problem, is that all of these services that are built on top of the internet, right, all have off switches. Right? So witness deplatforming on Twitter and Facebook, arbitrary trading halts that we just talked about on Robinhood or TD Ameritrade or Coinbase every time Bitcoin goes up or down 3%. What the fuck, Coinbase? Reddit message boards being taken down at the worst possible time. And the list goes on, right? Now, there are two big exceptions to this of services that don't have an off switch and have been provably reliable since day one. And that is those two services are BitTorrent and Bitcoin, right? Neither of these services can be shut off without shutting off the internet itself. So now, in my opinion, it's time to completely decentralize all of these services. Imagine a world where all financial services are completely decentralized with no off switch. All social media is completely decentralized with no off switch. All messaging systems are completely decentralized and also, completely secure, again, with no off switch. Right? Governments can't regulate and overregulate that which they can't shut off. That's why you're not going to see a government come in and shut off Bitcoin, because there's no off switch. So I prefer a world where companies like Abra and other companies and startups are forced to add value on top of these decentralized services rather than just build their own monoliths. Right? Companies can have an off switch, but that's great because consumers can use their voice by simply moving to another service. And that's what Abra does. We effectively build on top of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies and other services to add value. And if we're not adding value, you should move on, right? And luckily, I can say this week, the numbers clearly indicate we're adding value. All right, let me talk about Doge for a second and then come back to Bitcoin. So Doge was the big story yesterday. As of the time when I wrote our newsletter, it was up about 140% in 24 hours. It's been up as much as 250%. A huge trading volume in Doge across every exchange that I talked to. People coming into Abra, actually doing a lot of small testing, saying what's going on with this meme coin Doge. We're not seeing like crazy, people coming in, thank God, buying $100,000 worth of Doge, which I would strongly discourage. If you want to put $100,000 in crypto, put it in Bitcoin. But our transaction volume has been exploding in general on the altcoin front. So, we've seen huge volume in Compound, Decentraland, Chainlink, Basic Attention Token, Siacoin, Algorand. But the point with Doge, right, separate from those other coins, is that the second part of the social phenomenon to me, and we'll get to part 3, which is Elon. Part 2 is that same audience, right, that was more or less pushing AMC and first GameStop, decided that they could move their focus to Doge, and immediately you would see a price spike in Doge, which is exactly what happened. All right, so it's a really interesting phenomenon that that's even possible, that we could see such a big spike so quickly with the same audience moving their focus. So while it's important to understand what's happening with the cryptos themselves, we're witnessing a new social phenomenon that hasn't happened in the history of mankind, taking place in front of our eyes. Effectively, a reasonably educated group of people is deciding that it's time for people to pay attention to this investment or this speculative opportunity. I won't say that they're all investments. Some of them are speculative opportunities. You can decide for yourself what they mean to you. But this social group or social media-based group is making these decisions, and because of their large following, people are coming along for the ride. It's absolutely fascinating. All right, so let's get into Bitcoin, and then we'll talk about some of your questions. So Bitcoin is up. I haven't checked the chart in a few minutes, but I can check here in the trusty watch. It was up. It's about 36,000. So probably down a little bit from where it was overnight. I think it peaked at like 38,000. It's just crazy. So what happened? If you're not clear, if you don't use Twitter, Elon Musk, the venerable Elon Musk, changed the title for himself on his Twitter profile to simply use to say Bitcoin, and immediately within minutes it turned into its own meme on the internet, and you could see a price spike as you can see on the chart here. And let me see if I can bring up our trusty chart here as well, the bigger one. But it's incredible. He basically drove the price of Bitcoin up almost 20% within minutes, and so anyway, so I don't know what's going to happen today. I have no crystal ball. I'm happy to talk more about Bitcoin, but my perspective was that Bitcoin was looking extremely bullish before he tweeted this, or before he changed his Twitter handle. Bitcoin had been consolidating in this kind of 31K narrow channel, and before he tweeted that, it broke out. Okay. Now I'm hearing rumors that it's possible that Twitter is putting crypto in treasury. I had that completely unsubstantiated. So don't make any purchase decisions based upon my rumors. I'm just telling you, I have heard these rumors from other people that I know in corporate world. So I'm going to try to dig in to find out if that's true or not. But those are rumors that I'm hearing, a la like MicroStrategy, for example, who's been buying Bitcoin into corporate treasury. So what I said before the breakout was that I expected a breakout to happen, and you can read this in the newsletter. There are 3 reasons why I was pretty bullish going into yesterday, independent of Elon, of course, that this breakout was going to happen, right? So most traders that I follow were expecting actually a further consolidation to the downside, and that actually had me pretty bullish because I wasn't seeing it. But when a lot of people are fearful on an uptrend, and we're still basically in an uptrend, it's pretty bullish, right? The volume of Bitcoin, so that's point number 1. The point number 2 is the volume of Bitcoin getting locked up at higher initial prices, right? Meaning, in other words, people who are getting into Bitcoin, whether it's high net worth investors or some institutions are now getting into Bitcoin, as we've talked about, right? They're getting in at prices that set the floor much higher than where we are today, and they're moving that Bitcoin off of the exchanges. That's very bullish because that means they have no intention of selling anytime soon. Now, they can move it back on fairly quickly, but they're not keeping it there. So in general, that tells me, I use the analogy, if you watch hockey, there's a line change, right? We had the old line, which was the people that bought in 2017, 2018, and that line has been changed for a new group of buyers who have a higher floor on price that's in the 30,000s for the most part. That's extremely bullish because that means they got a ways to go before they're going to recognize any kind of profits, if ever. We don't know, all right? The third point is that Bitcoin is at the bottom of this channel, representing this upward price slope, which I actually forgot to pull up the photo, but it basically represents this stock to flow model that I talked about last week, and there's a really good picture of it in the newsletter and a link off of it. So if you go to abra.com and click on blog, you can see a picture of the channel. So this channel is holding. So what this tells us is that the increase in Bitcoin actually got steeper, right, going into late December than it was in November and early December. And it's maintaining that upward slope, which could easily see us at 100,000 Bitcoin if the slope maintains. Now, I have to show you one of the most important charts that I keep showing you over and over again, and that is the classic Bitcoin pullback chart. I forget the gentleman's name who prepared this, but I checked the numbers, and his numbers on the chart are accurate. All of those negative numbers that you see are 30% plus pullbacks on the way to Bitcoin's high points in late 2017, early 2018. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 30% plus pullbacks on the way to a huge run-up, okay? And so I fully expect that we're going to get 20 to 40% pullbacks along the way. And if it doesn't happen, it'll be completely different from last time. And by the way, that's what happened in mid-January, right? We peaked at 42,000, and we basically retraced almost 30%, as I recall, right? And so now we seem to be holding the original bull trend, no promises, but that's what it looks like. And so the point being that if that trend holds, right, it's also holding for the pullbacks, right, which I see as bullish. If you're looking for entry points, those 25 to 35% pullbacks are the best entry points you're going to get in a bull market, right? Because they're basically the market is basically giving you free money as it absorbs the last set of price gains. Okay, so I'm going to answer a few questions. Why are various buys and sells being disabled across all of these different on-ramps for crypto? Mike Demasi asks. So Mike, that's not happening at Abra, and so I can't say for certain. I have my speculation, and I'm pretty sure I know why, but I can't say for certain why it happens at other places. But I think we're facing a liquidity crunch as it relates to Bitcoin right now, and what's happening is that I believe if you look at PayPal and Square, for example, who basically only enable spot purchases on their platform, they don't run an order book. Abra doesn't run an order book either, but we integrate directly in real time with the order book in order to facilitate purchases. They basically buy Bitcoin in large quantities at any given time. So does the Grayscale Trust. And I believe this is actually creating a Bitcoin liquidity crunch right now, which is giving these exchanges a lot of angst. We haven't had that kind of a problem with Abra. I don't foresee it happening. We would obviously give users notice if their ability to buy Bitcoin, for example, or any other crypto was limited. I don't see that happening right now. And I think some of it just has to do with how these other exchanges are implemented. Some of them just don't plan for growth. And it's very disappointing to me because the entire crypto space is accelerating right now, right? I mean, Abra is doing really well. I think we're growing a little bit faster than the rest, but everybody's growing in the space. If you're in crypto, you're growing, period, full stop. And if you're not planning for that, you're not doing right by your customers. And so we need to take a deep breath as a space and a community and really start planning for this growth. And I'm so proud of the Abra team that I don't know if they've been sleeping the last few days, but we haven't missed a beat, and the service keeps on chugging along. Even though I think our download numbers, I tweeted earlier, they're up something like 10x over the last 3 days, which is, especially in the U.S., the numbers really popped, and so that's great. But a lot of the services have experienced growing pains right now. So here's a really interesting question from Caleb Bernhardt. So Caleb asks, what is my advice to 17-year-olds? Now, it's a very open-ended question. He doesn't say what's my advice as it relates to Bitcoin or anything else, but I'm gonna focus in on Bitcoin for my answer. So Caleb, the way I look at this is the single most important advice. The single most important advice that anybody can have as a new investor is to start early. That is it, right? And if you do that, you are way ahead of the game. I have 3 teenagers. I give them exactly the same advice when it comes to investing. You can make a lot of mistakes with your money. You can lose a lot of money. But the people who have been the most successful in terms of just investing have started early. So the fact that you're asking the question as a 17-year-old is phenomenal, because that gives you the best chance for long-term investing success. Do this, right? Take out your calculator and say that you're going to generate 10% return on your money forever, okay? And type 1.1, right? And then click that X to the power of Y button and put in the number 30, which means you're going to invest for 30 years. And watch what happens, right? I think the number is probably going to be like 50x. So that means whatever you invest today is going to be worth 50 times as much 30 years out if you're making 10% a year. That's the power of compound investing. Now, at the same time, we've got a new sea shift happening as it relates to money, right? And that's related to crypto, government money printing, what it's doing to stocks and other assets. So I strongly recommend to people who are under the age of 30 to have an outweighted holding in cryptocurrencies, particularly Bitcoin. I personally do 10%. People have to decide for themselves. Discuss it with your parents. Make sure they understand. If they don't understand, send them to Abra and say, hey, Mom, Dad, you got to start reading these blogs because this is what I want to do. And put 10% in Bitcoin and probably 50% in stocks for now, maybe even up to 70% in stocks for now, at least until the pandemic is done. As a 17-year-old, you're not taking an outsized risk because if the market pulls back, you have decades to recover, which is exactly why starting early, the second reason why starting early is so important. The first reason being compound interest. So if you added, and I've done research on this, if you added a 5% weighting to a portfolio allocation over the past few years to a normal stock portfolio, you basically doubled your returns every year with minimal risk because we're talking about 5%. That is incredible, right? And that's one of the reasons why institutional investors are now starting to pay attention to Bitcoin. All right, so that's a great question. Thanks for that one, Caleb. And Caleb, please keep coming back with questions and let us know how you're doing and tell us about your progress. We love helping teens get into investing in crypto and do it responsibly and talk to your parents about what you're doing as well. Let's see. Mikai asks, how secure is it to store Bitcoin in an Abra interest account? So that's a great question, Mikai. Mikai, I hope I'm saying your name right, Mikai Yagi. Welcome. And so this is what I do. All right, I keep all of my free cash as stable coins in Abra, so that earns 10% interest. I keep all of my Bitcoin and Ethereum in Abra interest accounts, and that earns about 4.5% to 5% interest, depending upon the coin. And I'm extremely comfortable with that. Now, as CEO, I know the inner workings of our lending product, our interest earning products, what we do to generate the yield, how our security systems work. A lot of those details are covered in newsletters and blogs. And so I'm not going to read you all of that now, except to say it's out there and you can read about it. But what we did at Abra, first and foremost, is as a management team, we sat down and we said, okay, all of us and our employees, we want to do this. We want to put our money in interest accounts. We want to buy these cryptocurrencies. We want to basically store our money in a way where we want, or I should say, we wanted to build a service for us that we were excited about using with the belief that other people would want to use it for themselves. And that became what you see as Abra today, right? It turns out that we were right, that other people would want it because we've got people in 100 countries doing it now, and our numbers have never been higher. But we've never suffered a hack. That's not guaranteed security, by the way, but there's a reason for that, okay? We are super paranoid about security. We don't leave Abra interest earning funds online. So even if you could hack Abra, there would be no way to steal the funds. And when we lend the funds to generate that interest, these are basically to institutions who are providing collateral in reasonable amounts depending upon the use of funds. Again, the operative point being that this is how I also store my Bitcoin and even my cash now, okay, using the Abra interest account. So keep the questions coming. I'm going to go to let's see, Clubhouse, and see if we have any questions. So if you're muted and you want to ask a question, just unmute yourself. DeCapo, I think you just joined. Did you have a question or a comment you wanted to ask?
What's up, Bill?
Hey, good morning.
I just wanted to know where are you streaming live?
Yeah, so Money Talks is on YouTube. It's on Facebook. It's on Twitter/Periscope. We get tens of thousands of views a week now. So the live streams are actually online right at the end of the shows, so people can watch the recordings as well. So if you want to see the video and follow along, in addition to Clubhouse, you can just go to Abra's YouTube channel and you'll see the video live. Cool. So I've also got a. Aisha, I can't hear you. You're kind of breaking up. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't want to cut you off. But
That's okay.
I am listening, and I'm on my Robinhood right now, and I'm looking at the Doge, and I'm just like, what do I do? So
Well,
if you're talking to a person like me who I've been listening, and I'm ready to go, I'm ready to do something, I'm ready to make a move, and I'm just still stuck. You know what I mean? Like I want to go ahead and just do something. I just want to make a move. And I'm looking at Robinhood. My finger is right here.
Yeah.
I just don't know what to do.
So Aisha, I have to be honest, right? So I don't look at Doge as something that is an investment opportunity. To me, it's kind of a gambling, speculative thing, and almost a learning opportunity as it relates to crypto. If you want to make money in crypto, I strongly would encourage you to look at Bitcoin and Ethereum. If you want to speculate and gamble a little bit of money on Doge, that's certainly people's prerogative. I've done it myself, but I tend to get in and out of those altcoins, as I've said many, many times, very, very quickly. And I don't hold them as investments because the value can go to zero, right? If you think that Doge can't go from 0.4 cents to 7 cents and back down to 0.2 cents in the next 3 days, everybody's kidding themselves. It can. I'm not saying it will, but I'm saying it can. That is very unlikely to happen with Bitcoin. I think you're going to see those 30% pullbacks that I talked about, but that's from a very different place. So please don't treat Doge and certain altcoins as even midterm investments. Treat them as technologies that represent speculative opportunities, and please don't plan on holding them for long periods of time. And if you do it with money that you're totally fine to lose, right? And if you want to do that, that's totally up to you. But just know what you're getting yourself into. And in terms of Robinhood, I can't speak to that. Obviously, this is we're talking about Abra. But let's see. We've got more questions coming here. Here's a question from Minion. He says, will Abra provide tax documents for interest accounts? So Minion, thank you for the question. I don't like calling you Minion. I don't have any minions, but that's the name on your Twitter feed. So I'm going to call you that anyway. But yes, you will get tax documents. It depends upon which accounts in Abra you use, trading, interest, or both. I actually wrote about this yesterday in our newsletter. If you go to abra.com, click on blog, there's a section in the newsletter about this. And basically what's going to happen is if you use Abra interest accounts and you get more than the threshold of interest, which I believe is $600, you'll get a 1099 form sent to you proactively. Otherwise, you simply go to the Abra app and you'll be able to download the transaction list to be able to use to calculate your taxes. And we also announced the partnership with another company who will help you import the data and figure out your taxes as it relates to crypto. And that's all outlined in the newsletter as well. So that's a U.S. Specific answer. So people in other countries, you have to dig in and figure out what's going on in your own home country. Let's see. Doug asks, will there be an AI platform for trading via Abra? I assume AI means artificial intelligence. I actually don't even know where to start with that question. But interesting idea. Probably not going to happen anytime soon. Abra is really meant to be a crypto banking service to empower people to control their crypto. And we're doing what we can to give people more and more tools to do that, such as, the Abra interest account. Anyway, so let's see. So we've got more questions coming in here. Sergeant Wilkie asks, any chance of getting new coins for the earn section of the app? Good question. So the Abra interest account supports a whole bunch of cryptocurrencies as well as stable coins. We support Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, and all of the major stable coins, Tether, TrueUSD, USDC. USDC is booming, Paxos, and you can earn the same 10% regardless of which of those stable coins you use. I was bombarded with people asking if we're going to support Doge for Abra interest accounts yesterday, and I can assure you that that's not going to happen. And in terms of other large growing projects and coins, there's others that we've looked at. The answer to that also depends upon demand on the institutional side of our business, because we only generate yield if there's borrow demand. And that borrow demand comes from different sources. And so we're constantly looking at increasing the footprint, not only for other dollar stablecoins, but for other international stablecoins as well. And so if you have very specific projects or coins, tokens that you're interested in earning interest on, please let us know. We're constantly looking at it, but we're going with the ones that clearly have the most demand right now. Let's see. Carl asks, can I talk about ICOs and whether Abra will go into that for small businesses? Carl, we are not an SEC registered broker-dealer, and we won't be going into the ICO business anytime soon. There are other platforms like I believe CoinList that does that, and you can check out CoinList. I think it's coinlist.com. It's pretty cool what they do, but it's a totally different business than the business that Abra's in today. Okay, so let's see. Great questions. Keep them coming. Let's see. Yeah, go ahead.
Yep. So on your website, Abra, the interest rates that you have right now, are they when you're staking?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the question relates to how do we earn the interest rates? Are we staking the coins? So no, we don't use staking to do that. We actually are directly lending. And so how does that work? It works basically the way a bank works, with a few key differences, right? So let's use a mortgage as an example, right? If you take out a mortgage on your house, effectively the house itself becomes collateral. That's why the bank wants you to make a down payment so that if the price of the house falls, the bank can still get their money back if they have to sell the house if you don't make the payments. Okay, so but the challenge for the bank is if you don't make the payments, they probably have to sue you to get you out of the house and then be able to sell it. In our world, it's much easier. If you deposit, let's say, Bitcoin into the Abra interest earning account, we earn interest for you on that by lending it out to institutional borrowers or miners or other companies, but they're going to collateralize that loan, not with a house, but with actual dollars as stablecoins. Now, the beauty of that is if they don't pay back the Bitcoin, we can sell the stablecoins in exchange for Bitcoin right away. We don't have to sue anyone. We just do it. Now, that's never happened. In all the time we've been doing this, we've never had to sell someone's collateral, but we would if we had to, right? And with the price of Bitcoin going up and down, borrowers often have to add more collateral all the time. And I'm happy to say that has never been a problem, mostly because you can't just sign up on Monday morning and then a Monday afternoon be an Abra borrower. It doesn't work that way. It actually takes several weeks of vetting and due diligence to get onboarded as a borrower with Abra. We dig into the company's financials, how they plan on using the funds. Even though they're giving us the collateral, we still do the homework and due diligence to determine if they're a viable partner for us. And in some cases, we say no, even if they're willing to give us the collateral for whatever reason. Let's see. And I should also mention, as part of that, we launched a new service called Abra Platinum back in early January, and it's just taken off. And this is for people who are depositing in large amounts. Generally falls into the 25,000 and up range. It's called Abra Platinum. It's an OTC service. If you're doing very, very large purchases of crypto, you can use the Abra Platinum service and also get an even better price on the trades. Somebody's asking where they can find the Clubhouse channel. I didn't have to search for it since I started it, but I believe if you just go to the list of currently active Clubhouse channels, you'll see Money Talks, which is our Money Talks weekly crypto AMA, and that's where you'll find it. DeCapo, I'm getting a lot of feedback on you, so I'm going to mute your phone. All right, so more questions coming in here, and then I want to talk about a couple of other things. Oh, by the way, we have our contest winner. Let's see. So my team here, Tamer Lamesh, tell me if I got this right. I think it's Karina Tagalam. I'm not sure where Karina's from, but the team is going to contact you. I think you just won $100 worth of Bitcoin, so congrats to you. Kind of kitschy, but I'm sure you'll appreciate that. And a happy weekend with $100 worth of Bitcoin. Doug asks, will Abra move from San Francisco to Wyoming or Puerto Rico? That's a great question. So there's a reason for, I assume Doug is including Wyoming and Puerto Rico in his options. So a couple of things, right? Abra itself is a Delaware corporation, but we have subsidiaries in different countries. We are not headquartered, as it were, in San Francisco. We're kind of a remote company now, distributed. Our development and largest office is in Mountain View near Google. What's probably the most interesting place in crypto land in the United States from a regulatory perspective right now is clearly Wyoming. And the reason being that the state of Wyoming has passed a whole bunch of legislation to make the state very, very crypto friendly. And there's a new company called Avanti, started by a woman named Caitlin Long. And I strongly encourage you to follow Caitlin on Twitter. I think her handle is just Caitlin Long. Very easy to find. And she's written a lot about what they're doing in crypto land. And they're actually creating a bank license explicitly for cryptocurrency companies, which is actually making it very compelling to want to set up shop in Wyoming. And I love Wyoming. So I'm a big skier and I love going there. So no plans to move Abra to Wyoming. But I can certainly tell you, what they're doing is making it very attractive. And I think a lot of startups are going to be moving to Wyoming. Just as some history, if you've ever gotten a third-party credit card, you may have noticed that on the back of the card that the card was issued by a company based in South Dakota. Why are all these credit cards based in South Dakota? Well, it turns out that the laws there make it very easy for companies to set up their bank in that state. And Wyoming seems to be doing the same thing for cryptocurrencies. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing a whole bunch of crypto companies setting up shop in Wyoming. So well done to Caitlin and the governor of Wyoming and everybody else. And even the senator from Wyoming is a Bitcoin owner. I saw her tweeting about that, which was very impressive. Let's see. If a borrower has to be 100% collateralized, why wouldn't they just buy Bitcoin directly? So Thatch, I think your understanding is a little bit different. So think it through for a second. If you're holding Bitcoin and you want to borrow dollars, right? You can actually use the Bitcoin as collateral, right? Borrow the dollars and actually buy more Bitcoin with it. So you're actually now holding effectively 2 times the Bitcoin that you did before. But the borrower is taking the risk, not Abra, and not you as the consumer, because I'm holding enough dollars to buy back the Bitcoin. So I hope that makes sense. How many days to withdraw crypto to banks? Okay, so this is a good question. We get a lot of people who have bought in other places and then moved their Bitcoin or moved their TrueUSD or Tether to Abra in order to make purchases or order to sell. We're happy to help you. And the answer depends upon which country you live in. And I can't tell from your post which country you live in. So in the US, if you use ACH to sell, you'll get the money probably the same day. If you do it via wire, you'll probably get it the next day. If you're holding money in the Abra interest account and you need to withdraw it, first you need to withdraw it out of the interest account into your trading account. For the vast majority of people, that withdraw into trading will happen the same day. If it's a much larger amount, it could take, we ask for up to 7, but honestly, I've never seen it take more than 1 day. I've done very large withdrawals to convert from, for example, TrueUSD to convert more money to Bitcoin, and I've almost always gotten the money the same day. So, and I don't get special treatment, by the way. So I don't think you'll have a problem there. Now, if you're in another country, like in Central America or Southeast Asia, where we support bank withdrawals, it can totally depend upon which bank you're using, which process you're using, and I'm not an expert because we support a lot of countries. And so if you have any questions about it that aren't answered in the FAQs, the app also has FAQs, by the way. So you can use the app to just basically figure out where to go to get help and what the process is for your country. Okay. All right. So let's see. I've got another question here. What about Abra debit cards? I've got 5 questions almost in a row on this topic. What about Abra cards, and are we going to be able to spend off of Abra? So this is something that I want for myself, and I can assure you, and that this is something we're looking very hard at. Here's the thing about Abra, okay, which I think is very unique. We have users in over 100 countries. We don't always succeed, but we try to do everything in a way that anything we launch is available to every user everywhere in the world. I don't want to be just a US company. And I think that as somebody who's visited a lot of countries and lived in a lot of places, I don't want to be a US-centric company. I want to be a global company. That's the beauty of crypto. It's not very good advice in terms of building a startup, but this is crypto. It's different. And so I don't want to launch a debit card for a bunch of rich Americans and basically shut everyone else out. I want to create a product that we can all use globally. And so if we do that, that's my goal, right? And so it may take a little bit longer than other people who would do something just in the US or just in one country, but I want to do it right. And so I don't have anything to announce except to say I personally would want it. I guess, while I don't get special treatment in terms of where our product is going, maybe, I have some more outsized influence. Okay. Keep the questions coming. I've got like a whole bunch of questions on Abra cards. I'm going to leave it and just refer to my last answer, and I'm not going to answer any more questions today on Abra cards, or my product team is going to get very mad at me. When will I be able to borrow against my Abra crypto holdings? Okay, this is another very common question we get. Again, I'm not going to upset my product team, except to say, keep reading our newsletter every week. Keep coming back to watch Money Talks, and you might get a nice surprise. But that is by far the most common request that I see right now. People who have large deposits of Bitcoin and Ethereum, they want to keep them in their accounts, but be able to borrow some cash against them so that they can keep getting the benefit of all of the gains in Bitcoin. And I would use that myself on occasion. So that's, let's see where that goes. Again, I'm not going to give too much away today. More questions about taxes. Again, just go to the newsletter. We wrote about taxes there. Let me go back to Clubhouse, see if, what's going on here. We've got a couple of people with hands raised. Let's see. Let's go to, I think Brandon was first. So Brandon, if you're there, did you have a question or comment for us?
Yeah. Hey, Bill. I was just wondering, what is different with you guys for large institutions that want to make deposits and earn interest? Yep. Is there special support?
Yep.
Different interest rates?
Yeah, good question. So we do work directly with large companies now, separate from the app, and we have a team that's dedicated to that. So if you send me an email or send me a DM, and you can send me a DM by just clicking on my profile here in the Clubhouse on Twitter. I keep it open, and I'll put you in touch with the corporate team. But yes, they have a special process. The rates are specific to them. And it depends upon whether you are going to do things like lock up funds or whether you want to have, real-time access to funds and things like that. And if you have a personal LLC and you don't want to use the app as a consumer, we can set you up as well. Okay. Those tend to be larger depositors, people who have their own companies, for example, that want to put Bitcoin into treasury and don't know how to do it. We can help you with that as well. Okay.
Okay. And what are typically the interest rates on the borrowing side for retail level traders and institutions?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and so let me repeat the question because I'm not sure how I'm literally holding the Clubhouse, my iPhone by the mic for the Clubhouse users. The question was, what do the rates look like for institutional borrowers who are borrowing Bitcoin or traders, retail who are borrowing Bitcoin? And the answer is it depends. The rates are actually all over the place for a few reasons. It depends upon how much collateral we're collecting. It depends upon the balance sheet of the borrower. The bigger the balance sheet, the less the risk, even if we have the collateral. Use of funds. Are they already borrowing crypto from other places? So we dig into all of that and set rates. And so there's a huge range, and that range is commensurate with the risk. But risk is kind of a loaded word here because we're collecting the collateral. But a lot of times people are willing to give us even more than 100% collateral to get the rate down. Okay, so it just depends upon the situation, and but if it's something that you're interested in for your business, ping me. I'll put you in touch with that team, and we'll get you set up, and we can get rate quotes for whatever you want based upon what kind of collateral you're holding. Okay.
Okay, I have one other thing to ask.
Sure.
If that's okay.
Yep.
So you mentioned some people deposit crypto to borrow funds to buy more crypto. So couldn't they do that in sort of an endless cycle sort of way with you and the other crypto lenders, for example, Salt, and just keep locking up Bitcoin, keep getting more cash, keep buying more Bitcoin, locking up?
Yeah, the answer is no, because with retail, you're going to have to use more than 100% collateral. So eventually the collateral would wind down to zero. You would be over leveraged, but you would eventually run out of incremental leverage. So it's not a infinite loop the way you're describing, for sure. You can still do bad things for yourself if you're not careful, and I would discourage people from trying to do that. But the answer is you can't infinitely borrow, because generally the collateral requirements for consumers are going to be higher because you don't have a balance sheet as a consumer, right? So on a business, we'll collect the balance sheet, but on a consumer, there's no balance sheet. So the only way we can address the risk is by asking for even more collateral. That makes sense.
And do you guys file?
And that's all hypothetical because we're not in that business. So I'm probably giving too much away. But what was your other question? Sorry.
In a traditional loan, how UCC filings are made on the collateral. Do you guys do that?
Yeah. So we are. I can't answer that question because I would be giving something away that I don't want to give away yet. So can you do me a favor and hold that question until we announce something that I'm already getting my team. Hey, Bill, what are you doing? Kind of question pings over here. So great question. It's the right question. But let's let our announcements catch up with your question first. All right. So thanks, Brandon. Let's see. Kelly, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I just wanted to say that I really appreciate you using Clubhouse as well. It sounds like you just started using it. The benefit for that, like using this platform instead of what you're doing already, is that users can do multiple things while listening to you. So like in the time I've been listening to you, I've been able to download Abra and get into it while you're talking, like in real time. So I just wanted to add that it's super useful. So I hope that you continue your chats on Clubhouse.
That's great. And yes, I think it's been, I actually went back and looked. I've been into for a couple of weeks now, and I do the same thing, especially lately with all the craziness in the markets. I listen in the background, and while I'm working with my AirPods, and it's very interesting. I used to listen to music, and I still do, but a lot of times I'll listen to Clubhouse now, and I find it fascinating, just the level of interaction and all of the myriad walks of life that people are coming from to use Clubhouse. There's actually some foreign language Clubhouses that you probably don't see in the list. I actually explicitly searched, and I speak a couple languages, so I was looking, and it was pretty interesting. Like I was listening to one in German, and it's just people from all over the world, and they're talking about Bitcoin and investing and starting businesses and entrepreneurship, and I totally agree. And so I know my team is listening right now. They're nodding their heads, and I think we're going to keep doing this. And we don't need it to be a huge audience like we have on YouTube and Facebook. It's great if it's more intimate, and the questions are awesome. So whether it's 10 people or 10,000, we're happy to do it as long as it's adding value. So thanks for the feedback. Okay, so we're going on 10 a.m. I am exhausted. I haven't slept yet. So it's been a hell of a night. Let's do a quick Bitcoin check here. So we are at let's see, where are we at? We're at 35.6. So we've had a bit of a pullback since the highs overnight. I'm in this for the long game. I hope you are too. Thanks for the support. Please, if you're watching on YouTube, press the subscribe button. We're probably going to change the format for Money Talks in the next couple of weeks. We're actually considering going to a show format where we're actually doing shorter shows multiple times a week so we can give you quick updates. I don't know how many of you are listening to my voice for an hour. One, I appreciate it. Two, I understand if you can't or don't want to. So we're strongly considering going to a format where we can give you kind of quick 15-minute hits 2 or 3 times a week. And so if you have an opinion on that, ping me on Twitter, and we're happy to take it into account as we figure this out. It's not an easy thing to put all this content together, and the team's gotten pretty good at it, but it is a fair amount of work. So we want to add the most value we can. Press the subscribe button on YouTube and the follow button on Facebook and Twitter. That helps us know that you want to watch, and so particularly on YouTube if you're there. So buckle up. It's going to be a fun weekend, I have a feeling. Oftentimes Sunday evenings on the East Coast get really interesting when international markets open. Don't know what's going to happen. Thanks Elon for the little bit of rocket fuel here this week, and I hope things go well with this upcoming SpaceX launches. We're huge fans. As a former NASA guy, I'm a huge fan. So look, stay safe. Have a great weekend. Keep the questions coming. We'll continue to answer the questions, particularly on Twitter, on Abra support channel, support@abra.com. Huge shout out, by the way, to the Abra support team. The Abra support team has been getting like 10x the volume of support requests that we got just right before Christmas. And they have been working tirelessly to help all of you, and they don't get nearly enough credit. So huge shout out to that team. We love you guys. Thank you for your efforts. I know I'm speaking on behalf of all of our users when I say thank you for your efforts. In the meantime, have a great weekend. I'll see you all online, and keep the questions coming, and take care.